Thanks, Jason, and thanks to Jenny and Bobby. You guys told incredible stories, and I think illustrate how widespread bingo is used across the state to raise funds. I think the traditional notion of bingo, which we all sort of recognize as being in churches and schools and veterans and fraternals and social clubs, is absolutely still accurate. But there are so many organizations out here like these three that we may not think about that are using bingo to support their mission, and those are critical missions for our state, and we need to see them survive. You can hear from these folks the passion and dedication that these charities do fill that crucial role in our state, and we believe their ability to raise funds ought to be modernized. They ought to be able to compete on a level playing field with the other forms of gaming now present in Ohio. As you can see from these charts, there have been hundreds of millions of dollars of gross revenues from bingo that have decreased over the last decade, and similarly, the number of organizations able to use bingo as a fundraiser has also decreased dramatically. We believe that bingo as currently in its form is outdated and unwieldy for many of these organizations. And we look forward to working with the legislature and our other allied organizations to change the situation and hopefully modernize bingo so that these wonderful organizations can continue the work they do for the betterment of Ohio. At this point, we would all be happy to take questions. If I'll have Jenny, Jason, and Bobby join me up here. Thank you.
Do you have an actual proposal? Are you asking for slot-like machines as well? Or?
So we've gone around and talked to lots of charities around the state and basically asked them, what is it that you think would help you? And we have those ideas in concept form. As Jason mentioned, one of them would be the ability to compensate volunteers. Another one that we are looking at is the ability to have an electronic form of instant bingo. There are currently electronic bingo aids where you can play traditional bingo on an electronic format. You cannot play an instant bingo tab or an e-ticket on an instant format. And the concept behind it is essentially take those, there's some examples back on the table, take those instant tickets that we've all seen in their current format, and instead of hitting print and having them go through 9 hands, leaving them in electronic format and allowing folks to play that way. It's gotten great reception from a lot of the charities who've talked about it. I know some of you have seen it and perhaps can comment as to whether or not you think it would be helpful.
Anything would be helpful. Anything, we're fighting a battle with both of our hands tied behind our back. Oh, sorry. Anything would be helpful. We're fighting a battle with both of our hands tied behind our back. We can't pay anybody. We can only operate 3 days a week maximum. We can only pay out certain amounts of money. What we're looking for is options. Okay, the e-tickets are a great idea. There are also plenty of other ideas out there. Anything to help us give us multiple streams of revenue to increase and stay alive to do whatever missions we might have.
Are the machines pretty similar to what the vets and fraternals have now? The bingo machines they have at the locker rooms?
Yeah, those are raffles. So this would be the pull tab ticket in an electronic form. And we've actually got an example back on the table if you want to take a look at it. But it's essentially, it's just like with a pull tab where you kind of pull it across. You can do the same thing with your finger, and there's animation and so on. So it would be under current regulation that we have for instant tickets. All of that would still apply. All of the reporting and accounting would still happen. It would just be an electronic format.
What's the major problem? Is it that there's so many more opportunities to gamble? Is it, that people are less interested in gambling these days, so the pool has to spread farther? I mean, what are you finding is the major issue for having the declining numbers?
It's a combination of multiple factors. The first one, like I said, when most of our regulations were written, the only place to gamble was Las Vegas and Atlantic City. Now you can gamble anywhere. So that's number one. Number two, skill parlors. Number three, the Ohio Lottery. There's just so many things. People only have a certain amount of money that they're going to spend on recreation, whether it's gambling or movies or whatever. And our biggest problem is that we don't have as much access to try to earn those dollars. Okay, we're not asking for us to be the only game in town. We're asking to give us a fair chance to try to earn the dollars from the other places that exist.
The legislature tried to crack down in the last couple of years on game skill or internet cafes. Is it less of a problem now, or is it still persisting?
Exactly the same.
Had no change.
They still exist. They're still destroying charitable gaming.
One thing about it, we don't see them as much. At one time, within my bingo hall area, there was probably 10 internet parlors that were busy all the time. What it hurts is it hurts your instant ticket sales. That's where your money's at. In bingo, if you break even at the door, you've done great. It's the instant tickets is where you make your profit. And your sales went way down when those internet parlors went up because it's the same concept. The concept of that little ticket is like a slot machine. You pull a handle and something, you see what you got. You open the ticket and you see what you got. So that hurt us more than anything else.
If I may, I'd like to clarify too with my charity, we have a type 3 license, and what we do is go into establishments such as bars, such as cafes, where individuals spend time and they use that as a form of entertainment. Again, with the other opportunities so one of my selling points is I say to the establishments, look, these individuals can spend more time, they'll enjoy their time here, they'll buy more, at this point, liquor, or they'll buy more coffee, whatever the case may be. It's a way for them to entertain themselves. So when you have some of these other skill games and places where they can get to, they then don't go to my establishments, therefore I lose my selling point. So I just wanted to clarify our ability to raise those funds.
Have you got any interest from legislators to introduce the bill?
So we've just recently begun those conversations, and I think, but based on the last several years, there's definitely an appetite amongst legislators to do something that will help these organizations. I know, especially, when we're talking about some of the other fraternals or veterans organizations who have oftentimes use bingo as alongside their other options as fundraisers. There's certainly an appetite out there to protect these individuals, but I think what's been missing has been that concerted voice of all of these similar organizations working together and saying, we're in the field, this is what we've heard, this is what we've learned, this is what will actually help us. And I just don't think that's been present recently, and that's the point of United Charities of Ohio, is to give these folks the ability to interact directly with the legislators who may have ideas on how to help them, and these guys can say, yes, that will, or no, that won't. It provides for that direct feedback.
Jason, a question. Will your organization go under if things don't change? It sounds like you use the example of both hands tied behind their back. Are you teetering?
We are currently the biggest charity in Stark County. We are holding our own. Every single year we've seen our gross receipts drop. Every single year in the last 6. We are still doing well, but we are going to be one of the few charities left at the table if it doesn't change. The smaller games have already went out. The games that are left are the bigger ones. And we've seen in the last year some of those bigger ones go out. So in the last 10 years, if this trend continues, it's not outside the realm of possibility that we disappear along with every other type of charitable gaming.
But you've seen a lot of them just disappear.
They go away. I can probably count 20 in the last 3 years. And that's being nice.
I'm just wondering, do you think it's a demographic change? Do you think young people, millennials, are gambling like their predecessors? I mean, when I go into a bingo hall with a story, it's mostly people my age and older. So can you
He hit on a great point. It's a social aspect as you get older. As you're not able to be as active into your 60s, your 70s, and beyond, they come to, it's like high school. It really is, to watch people interact. They get to see each other 3, 4, 5 times a week, because they don't just gamble at my place, they gamble at his place, or whatever places are near us. And as people get older, they don't go to bars as much, and you start seeing people go to bingo halls. I'm not saying we're trying to get youthful people to come in. I think that if we offer a good product, they will come in. And by loosening up what we can do, we can offer different types of ways to get more young people involved.
Like what? Give me some ways that you think you should be using that.
Well, for example, one of the things we've talked about around the state and that charities have brought to us is the idea of allowing for a BYO bingo in traditional bingo. Currently, you cannot have, for example, alcohol at a traditional bingo site. Even if you're in an Eagles or a Moose where there may be sort of a bar on one side and then bingo on the other. You can't, never shall the twain cross, right? So what we're looking to do, and we've seen it work in other states, particularly Texas and Florida, is allow for an evening where someone could come in. For example, a group of 20-somethings who maybe want a Friday night out and want to spend 3 hours could bring in a bottle of wine or a six-pack of their craft beer or a growler and come in and play bingo, give some money to charity, and have a good time and not end up at the bar. This is an example of something that we're looking to doing as a way to perhaps modernize the game and bring in that younger demographic. We've seen it work in other states. In Texas, they have bingos where there are lines out the door and folks actually can't get in that have this concept going. So we'd like to see that replicated in Ohio.